Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are flying solo as of the second. Tim and Jacob are on assignment. Emilio is currently sliding a trailer sideways into the neighborhood, I believe. He may be joining us here shortly. So hopefully everybody had an awesome day on this glorious Friday, as it is officially the weekend. I don't know about you guys and gals, but Hopefully, the majority of our listeners don't have to work tomorrow, and you get to sleep in a little bit. That's my plan. But if you are working, maybe we can make it a little more tolerable with the pod. We'll try to keep you guys some content going over the weekend. Let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat real quick. We got Chris in the house, Daryl. We got the Monster Aggressor UFO. Always funny reading that name. United Bates, good to see you, buddy. Mountain Man Pack, Chuck Jaggers. We got too old for this. Everybody following in. Coach Lynn in the house, Mr. Larry. Appreciate everybody swinging through, making us a part of your evening. If you would hit that like button on the way in. If you're new here, feel free to sub to the channel. And if you don't like the show, just unsub on your way out. It'll be all right. Let's hit the chat real quick, because obviously we had some news break, and we're going to lead off with Matthew Golden. But I want to hit some of these chats real quick. The Monster Aggressor says, Matthew Golden would be insane first round and then draft Dante Thornton Jr. They would be insane speed only if Derek Harmon not there, or Amos and Barron. We can get edge later. I think those are all great points. With Matthew Golden, he was a player that I was kind of on early, and since then he's cooled off a little bit. We don't have a complete RAS, so that hurts him a little bit on our board, because I don't penalize people who don't have a good RAS, but we want to give bonus to players who have a strong RAS and the players that compete, right? To me, that's a big thing. It really is. If you're willing to go out there and compete in these drills and try to increase your draft stock, I think that that's a positive thing. Like, hey, look, I'm not afraid to showcase my skills, right? I think that's huge. But yeah, I mean, Dante Thornton's very interesting. He's a physical freak. We just got him significantly lower on our board. But when it comes to Matthew Golden, I think he's like in the number 37 spot for us. As I was working today, I was kind of thinking, that makes a lot of sense if they drafted Matthew Golden. You guys remember last year, Jordan Morgan, he was like one or two tiers lower than the current tier of talent we had on our board. But it doesn't mean Goody doesn't have them in the current tier, top tier of talent, right? And I could see Matthew Golden being the pick. I could. That would not surprise me one bit. But again, we got a long way to go. I think there's 7 or 8 top 30 visits that we know of so far. And this in no way, shape, or form is this saying Matthew Golden's going to be the pick at 23. But what it does mean is the Packers are taking a good look at him. And then when you look at where he's projected to go in the draft, which is something that Brian Gutekunst and the Green Bay Packers can't control, makes you think probably looking at the 23rd pick. And maybe they're trying to qualify him or disqualify him for that pick that high. So we'll get into that here in a second with a full scouting report on him. Chris, the casual in, says 5'11", 190, pass for my unprofessional opinion. So a little too small there for Chris. Mountain Man Pack says Golden is small, but there is a lot to like. There really is, man. One of these guys that I think he originally came out of Houston and actually committed to TCU, flipped to Houston, and then transferred to Texas after 2 years, if I remember correctly. So he's kind of worked his way up from Houston, who I think we would all agree is a smaller school, much a less popular school than Texas, obviously. Two over this says Egbuka is growing on me. This may be the year for first-round wide receiver since the top end is quite saturated. I could see that too, 2-0 for this. For me, Egbuka is significantly higher now than both Luther Burden and Matthew Golden. We've actually got Emeka Egbuka in the 19 spot on our board now. He's kind of soared towards the top. Now he's the second best wide receiver on our board, obviously behind Tet McMillan out of Arizona, Jordan Morgan's old teammate. So, and the big thing with the Egbuka, he got a 3-point bonus from Greg Cosell. Greg Cosell really liked him. Obviously, it's not a 5 or a max 7, but a solid little bonus there. And then, of course, he went out there and competed, and the RAS is, a 9+ last I checked, and we'll do a final walkthrough of those RASs before we finalize the board as well. So it's going to be a little bit difficult keeping up with the chat. I'll do my best in here, guys, but we'll try to keep up with it. Mountain Man Pack says, I've seen Egbuka compared to Justin Jefferson. Yeah, and that's the thing about this whole, and not to take a shot at Chris. Chris isn't the only one that feels this way. I feel a little bit different about it. This whole, a receiver 5'10" or 5'11" is too short. Now, I know JJ's, I think, quite a bit taller. I want to say he's 6 foot or maybe 6'1". I could be wrong there. He might be 5'11". But, what it comes down to, how many times, let me ask you this when it comes to height. How many times last year did you see a receiver not make a play and go, damn, if he was just an inch taller, he would have made that play? I can't think of one, right? And I know it sounds silly, and I'm being a little bit dramatic in that question there, but that's just how I see the game of football. Now, if you've got two prospects that grade out in the same tier on our board, and one is 2 inches taller than the other, heck yeah, go with the taller dude, right? But when you got a player like Egbuka who's significantly higher on our draft board, I'm not going to take someone who's taller than him, who's graded lower, And again, I'm not saying our board is perfect. It's probably the farthest thing from it, although, boy, there's a lot of data in this thing this year. It's exciting to see how it's come together. But that's just how I look at the wide receiver position. What I seen was, could players get open, right? That was an issue against man coverage. And we've seen drops. Those are the two big things for me going into this year when you're looking to snag a top receiver. If you decide to do it with the 23rd pick, or you end up going for a Trey Harris or a Jaden Higgins, which is why we were so big on Jaden Higgins, is low drop percentage, pretty good against man. Trey Harris was dominant against man, albeit minimal snaps, but still dominant against man. And his drop percentage was still below that 8%, which has kind of been deemed as, hey, that's that cutoff point, right? So, yeah, that's just that's kind of how I look at it. So, Chris says, I'm on a YouTube commercial right now. It's literally 2 minutes long. WTF. Telling you, boys, YouTube Premium's worth the price of admission. You can listen to stuff in the background, close your phone out. No ads. I'm just saying, it's well worth it. So I can't stand ads either there, man. All right, let's dive into the topic tonight. One of the topics, and that's Matthew Golden. Obviously, the Packers reportedly schedule a top 30 visit with Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. We've seen rumors last night, and I kind of held off going, I want to make sure before we start putting content out about it. And then, of course, Easton Butler confirmed it, and that's the dude. That guy has been so spot on. He always waits until we got confirmation. He never jumps the gun on that stuff, and obviously got a great deal of respect for him. So here we go, Matthew Golden. Let's dive into the scouting report here. It says, so the Green Bay Packers have reportedly scheduled a top 30 visit with Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, according to sources cited by ESPN, marking him as a prime target for the 2025 NFL Draft. Golden, currently slotted at number 37 on our PTA big board, electrified the NFL Combine with his 5'11", 191-pound frame, blazing 4.29 second 40-yard dash, and polished route running, offering the Packers a dynamic weapon to enhance Jordan Love's aerial attack. So let's just kind of go back to where it started. You see this picture of him in high school, and here's a scouting report coming out of high school, okay? A 4-star recruit from Klein Cain High School in Houston, Texas. Matthew Golden entered the 2022 class as an electrifying talent at 6 foot 185. You're going, whoa, you just said 5'11". This is how these things roll. Coming out of high school, they're typically, it's funny, when they come out of high school, they're at their tallest. By the time they leave college, they're at their shortest. By the time they finish the combine, but it is what it is. He boasted elite speed, clocking a reported 4.4 second 40. So he ran a 4.4 reportedly coming out of high school, which is really impressive because obviously the college training staffs get their hands on him and increase that speed as much as they can. His senior film showcased contested catch prowess, crisp cuts, and yards after catch elusiveness, earning him a number 15 ranking among Texas prospects and number 43 nationally among receivers per 24/7 Sports. Initially committed to TCU, he flipped to Houston, where recruiters saw him as a speed merchant with slot outside flexibility. I want you guys to really key in on that because that's huge. Again, with Matt LaFleur's offense, it's a big misconception that, boy, to play outside, you got to be huge. That's just simply not the case, man. There's a lot of mixing and matching going on. In my opinion, I'm not saying you should have everybody out there under 6 feet. But when you got guys that can run multiple positions, whether it's Z, F, moving Z, going out to the boundary X occasionally, all those things lining up in the backfield, which is essentially what the F does in Matt LaFleur's offense as he moved from the slot to the Z to the backfield, all those things. You want a guy who can handle all those things. If you go and get a huge receiver like a Jaden Higgins, right, which we're really, really big on, I'm sure he could do it, but I don't see him being as dynamic as like a Matthew Golden with 4.29 speed, moving in and out of the backfield and doing all those things that Matt LaFleur wants to do to exploit those mismatches. So, all right, so here is Matthew Golden's college statistics, all right? And I tried to fact check these as much as I could, made sure we had the correct numbers. You guys just shout it out in the chat if we're wrong on here. Golden's 3-year college career from 22 to 24 spans 2 seasons at Houston and 1 at Texas, culminating in a standout 2024. As a freshman at Houston in 2022, he played 12 games, catching 38 passes for 584 yards and 7 touchdowns. That was his freshman year at Houston. In 2023, despite a foot injury limiting him to 9 games, he recorded 38 receptions for 404 yards and 6 touchdowns, plus 2 kickoff return scores. So there might be some value there in kickoff return. Let's say you did decide, all right, we're going to take Matthew Golden in the 23 spot. Think of the camp battle for return specialists. Mecole Hardman, maybe Matthew Golden in there. I want to see Jayden Reed step away from that. I just want him to play wide receiver. That's me personally. Also, Keyshawn Nixon, right? You got a multitude of players, and I imagine if your top returner goes down with an injury, you still feel pretty good about that room, obviously. So the fact that he had 2 kickoff return scores is huge, earning second team all Big 10 or Big 12 honors as a returner. Transferring to Texas in 2024, he erupted for 58 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns in 14 games, earning second team all SEC honors. Career totals were 134 receptions, 1,975 yards, 22 touchdowns, and a 14.7 yard average over 35 games, plus 2 kickoff return touchdowns. All right, so here is the PFF card for Matthew Golden. They've got him at 6 foot 195. We'll talk about the actual measurements here in just a second. In 2022, he graded out a 65.3. Then he improved to a 68.4. Then he improved to a 74. Keep in mind, in Houston, he's playing lesser talent, right? As a freshman, had a pretty good year, little injury setback sophomore year. Junior year, goes to the SEC, plays for Texas, and has his best year. What you have is an ascending player here. And again, when you're drafting these players, what you don't want to get caught up in, guys, is, all right, what are just the PFF grades? What did he do in college? The goal is to project him to the NFL. What's he going to be in the NFL? Now, a big part of that is going to be this top 30 visit, just like with Jayden Reed. You guys remember Jayden Reed? No one was on Jayden Reed because he ran a slower 40 time. I want to say a 4.5 40. And obviously, PFF grade was better the year before he came out, so everybody was just kind of quiet on him. He goes in, meets with the Packers, and later on, they said when they had him in for the top 30 visit in the workout, he actually ran a 4.4 40. So those things matter. Now, if we were to play like, negative Nancy here, Matthew Golden could go in there after running a 4.29, and the Packers clock him at a 4.4, and that could lower his stock a little bit, right? You got to look at both sides of the story there. So again, the other thing I want you to key in on down here on the bottom right is the people that think he's just a slot receiver. Last year, he had 175 snaps in the slot, right? Out wide, 664. And obviously had 55 kickoff returns. He also lined up in the backfield 12 snaps. So to me, this just feels like Matt LaFleur looking for another player similar to Jayden Reed that they can move all around this offense. And if you were to get Matthew Golden and he can take on that role of F, then you could put Jayden Reed at Z, and now those positions become very, very interchangeable with whatever cheat motion you want to unveil that you have not shown yet to NFL defenses. If that makes sense. So, all right, moving along. Detailed scouting report entering the draft. Measured at 5'11", 191 pounds at the combine, Golden boasts an explosive build with 30.63-inch arms. His scorching 4.29 40 highlights his elite speed, while his 2024 Texas tape reveals a refined route runner with a knack for separation. Golden excels on slants and go routes, using quick twitch agility and reliable hands to win at all levels. He's versatile enough for outside or slot duties in Green Bay's scheme, though he can struggle against press coverage from bigger corners. Added strength could elevate him into a true number one wide receiver, pairing perfectly with Christian Watson's deep threat. And obviously, we're talking about once Christian Watson is healthy there. I love the pairing of him with Jaden Reed personally. I think that would be absolutely awesome. So here is the RAS card. As you can see, it's incomplete. He did measure in at 5'11" even, 191 pounds. All right. And his 40-yard dash was a 4.29, with the 20-yard split being a 9.87 and the 10-yard split being a 1.47. All three of those scoring in the nines, obviously. So if he were to live up to the agility drill expectations, and if his explosiveness, which people say he's explosive, to be a shorter guy at 5'11", one of the things you'll notice, actually, I could probably see it in some of these pictures, is his leaping ability, right? His ability to go up and get some of the higher thrown balls, even though he's a shorter receiver, not of the 6'2", 6'3" stature. So very, very interesting there. What I was getting at is, if he were to complete that RAS card, I feel really, really confident he would be a 9+, scoring him a 5-point bonus. We're not going to do that because every year we leave it blank if the RAS card is incomplete, right? Because not just like, it's not like you look at it and go, oh, his RAS was bad. No, you look at it and go, either he was too hurt to compete or he chose not to compete at some of those things. And I don't want that to help him. We could pencil it in for 5. And if we were to do that when it comes to our boy Matthew Golden, he's got a 34 score. So that would put him at 29, which would put him in the 34 spot on our board, I'm pretty sure, somewhere around that range. So it's not like it would scoot him way up. You would still have Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka above him on our big board. We got Emilio joining us now. Appreciate you jumping in there, buddy. I know you've been battling the heat like me today. It got pretty toasty up here. Hopefully you drink
86, man. 2 gallons of water down. Worst part, still got the thorn in the tip of the index finger, but
that's the worst. And you just got to wait. Give it 2 or 3 days, and then you just squeeze that sucker. And it finally comes out, man.
Absolutely.
That's the worst, especially those tiny ones, man. When you're trimming up those briar bushes.
Yeah. The barberry, just get rid of it. Go ahead and just yank it out yourself.
Exactly. Continuing on here, we got injury and character concerns. Golden's durability is solid but not spotless. A foot injury in 2023 at Houston ended his season early, missing the final 3 games, and a tweaked ankle in 2024's opener versus Colorado State limited his early snaps at Texas. He rebounded quickly both times with no chronic issues reported. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero clocked him at 21.2 miles per hour on a 2024 deep ball per Next Gen Stats, signaling full health. Off the field, Golden's a coach's dream, praised by Houston's Dana Holgorsen and Texas's Steve Sarkisian for his football IQ and leadership with zero character flags. Emilio, how do you feel about our boy Matthew Golden? And I can scroll up and down here and give you a little bit more on him. We'll talk draft projection here in just a second. But what do you think about Matthew Golden, man? He's a little bit lower on our board than the 23 spot, but I would have no problem with this if he just completely wows Goody and the boys.
I think it's that last sentence right there. That's just the first thing to get you thinking about the Packers wanting to take him with the 0 character flags, football IQ, and leadership. Yep. I mean, that's just music to Goody's ears. Mark Murphy, Matt LaFleur too. Remember, we're talking Goody's making all these picks, but he's still got to do it for Matt LaFleur, for Jeff Hafley. We still got to make sure that, the team's going to work out. I love that he's got the speed. I think Coach was saying it here. I heard Golden on tape did not play fast because Ewers could not throw the ball that far on deep balls. I think
that's when you put in the Drewski there.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But I think that's the truth because, you get somebody with that kind of speed. Why do you have to pick a fast corner? Because they have to be able to compete with the wide receiver speed. I think 4.2 got Goody's eyes on him. You know what I mean? I don't think that it's anything beyond. He could care less about his height. If the dude was 5'7", all right, tell me. But if he's 5'11", just give him 6. Whatever Jaden Reed was, if that clock read 4.2 when Goody timed him in Green Bay, I think he's on the board. top 1, 2, 3 picks, I would think. If it kind of falls that way, maybe if he slides back, picks something up like y'all did last night on the draft, still grab him.
I didn't even think about that.
Still grab him a little bit later, maybe still in the first, because they wanted to move back up for Christian Watson, right? So you wanted to maybe get that 5th-year option. Let's just move back a little bit, save just a little bit of change, get that extra 5th year, and grab an extra pick while you're at it.
That's a great point, man. I didn't even think about it. Like, what if Goody trades back 5 picks and make this pick would make a little more sense, and you pick up an extra 3rd or extra 4th? Man, that would, and maybe they still feel like they get their top guy, like one of their top guys, right? Because here's the reality too. We don't know how Goody has these guys graded and how his scouting staff has them graded. They may have Tet McMillan as a 2nd-round pick. They may have Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden as a 2nd-round pick. This might be their top-graded receiver, and they may have a early 2nd, late 1st grade on him. Right. So at 23, maybe you do trade back. Like, these are the things that we don't know, and it's why I try not to subscribe to the people that are, that's way too early. We don't know, guys. We don't know. Like, we don't know what the board looks like. And here's newsflash. The Packers board probably looks totally different from all other 31 other teams, right? So it's like, that's why I try not to speak in like definitives, I guess is the right word. I try not to speak like, okay, this is the finale. This is it, guys. This is exactly what this guy is. And it does drive me crazy when other people do it and that's why I always say I am not a scout. I'm combing through the info just like you guys. What I like to do is try to find a few people who have scouted throughout their career, find someone like Greg Cosell who's broke down film for 50 years, 40 years, whatever it's been now, and say, all right, let's let them do the work, obviously give them credit and go, all right, let's use their information and now let's build our board. So
yeah, because same with DJ. I mean, you get a look at Golden, you see what he likes about him. He thinks that he can be, the thing is they said that there's probably no number ones besides McMillan, right? We talked about that. T-Max, I think that if you're getting Golden, you also don't want to, maybe we don't want to reach if Goody thinks that. Maybe he doesn't. You get that number in his head. Hey, he liked Christian Watson's speed, willing to get him in the 1st round after we already took a 1st-round pick. Hey, I don't put it past him at all. I think you're weighing your options of, do we need a D lineman in the 1st? Do we need a wide receiver corner? All those 3 and which one it's going to be. It's just about production. Who's going to fit well in the team?
Yeah, Coach Lynn says Golden has to work on his release package, but other than that, I like and appreciate that little scouting tidbit there, Coach. I know you got an eye for that stuff for sure. Deadfish says, little does Clayton know the Packers are using the PTA board. If the Packers are using our board, you're going to get a top receiver next year because we're going to be picking in the top 5.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're a member of Patreon while they're at it. Yeah, they got access to the board.
Maybe that was I'm not even going to.
Oh yeah, that other one. That
might have been Goody that jumped in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who it is, but it is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't offend anyone. I can't control what people put their name as in the Patreon group. I'm just saying. There's one in every village though. There's no doubt about that. So all right. So moving along here with Matthew Golden, draft projection. Golden's draft stock has skyrocketed into 1st-round territory, driven by his 2024 Texas explosion with 58 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns, and a combine-defining 4.29 40. Once a day 3 sleeper, his number 37 ranking on our PTA big board now aligns with 1st-round buzz. ESPN's Jordan Reed ranks him number 6 among receivers and number 53 overall, while CBS Sports' Chris Trapasso slots him at 59, but his trajectory points higher. The Packers picking at 23 could snag him to bolster their passing game, though teams like the Falcons, who are sitting at pick 15, or the Steelers at pick 19, which, by the way, the Steelers had Jackson Dart in for a top 30 visit. I want 31 quarterbacks to be drafted in the 1st round is what I want. Number 19 might jump earlier for his speed. A high floor wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. Golden's too explosive to slip past the 1st round's end. So let me ask you that. Do you think he'll go in the 1st round as we button up this Matthew Golden talk here?
That's tough. I feel like the defense is super high. There's a lot more high intel on the defensive side of the ball this year in the 1st round. I would say that I would say there's a possibility he goes in the 1st, but it's got to be after 20. I wouldn't see him going before then, just because there's so much. I feel like there's so much other talent that people are going to want to dive into. But hey, you really never know. I mean, it could be a crazy day, and it could be 5 receivers go right before us, and all right, we're taking our D tackle. I'm glad we did the work on that. It's you really don't know. I think that's why you bring it up. That's why we look at the visits. Who'd they talk to? All right, check. Did they go on a visit? Check. All right, are they a captain? Did they do anything on the side? All right, check. And if we can get those to line up, those are the winners. But you have to do that work, or else you're not going to know. If you only say, all right, I'm only going to look at wide receivers because that's what we're getting in the first round, we're going to be upset when we didn't look at James Pierce or something like that to get us through.
Absolutely. And some of these guys that maybe aren't top 30 visits, there might be a handful of them they feel really good about. And they're like, there's no reason for it. He checks the box.
Yeah, we're good. Yep. Put him over there in the check category. We're fine. We got to hammer out. I got questions about X, Y, and Z over here.
Bingo. All right. So there you go. Matthew Golden again in for a top 30 visit in Green Bay. We'll see how that shakes out. Now, I thought, Emilio, since we were talking Matthew Golden, and that's the most recent top 30 visit, why don't we go ahead and jump into a little wide receiver room talk pre-draft? Does that sound good to you?
Love it.
All right, so what we're going to do is we put a little article together, and I tried to do this as quickly as I could earlier. Hopefully the numbers are correct. I went through and tried to fact check everything, but you guys call out anything you see. I just said, hey, wide receiver room pre-draft here. All right, that's the title. It said, let's take a deep dive into the Green Bay Packers' current wide receiver room as of April 4th, 2025. The Packers have built an intriguing group of young pass catchers over the past few years, and their wide receiver core has been a topic of much discussion. In spite of quarterback Jordan Love battling 3 different injuries in 2024 and the receivers fighting through significant drop issues, the Packers still finished 4th in the NFL in passing. Think about that. And that is in averaging an impressive 8.1 yards per pass attempt. If you hear some of the fan base talk about the passing game, Emilio, receivers, Jordan Love, you would think they're bottom third. We finished 4th, right? 4th. With 8.1 yards per pass attempt. And I like breaking that down just like points per play, things like that. That means every time you threw the ball, okay, you averaged 8.1 yards of success. Now, of course, there's incompletions in between, but that means you made it up on the other plays, and that's what it kind of averaged out to. I think that's the true gauge of how efficient, how successful, how explosive an offense is through the air.
Because I'm sure you look at that number, who's 32nd? Where are we? 3 yards of play, passing the ball. How are we even going to move down the field?
Bingo.
So, that's something that we need to keep up. And obviously, Matt's been crushing it with scheming. Let's get different plays in here. We got to keep improvising. The game's always changing. I think that's absolute. That's just point proven right there. He's getting it done with what we said, they can't catch. Jordan's hurt. Our O-line was, Swiss cheese sometimes. So I think that it really is impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Deadfish says, this draft seems deep at wide receiver. I'd rather the Packers wait until the second round to take a wide receiver. I'd like either Higgins or Harris. Talking about Jaden Higgins or Trey Harris. If Golden fell to 54, I'd be okay with him there. There's nothing wrong with that, Deadfish. Nothing wrong with that at all, especially if it means in the first round you get a Walter Nolan or a Derek Harmon. Emilio, there's people sleeping on Walter Nolan, bro. And I'm telling you, mark my words, we're going to look up in a couple of years and go, I'll be damned. He is a beast. Really believe it. It's amazing the Walter Nolan slander out there right now. And you just turn on the tape, and he is just blasting guys into the backfield every play, playing with power. Again, we're talking receiver right now, but give me one of those dudes in the first, and then a Jaden Higgins or a Trey Harris in the second.
Right.
I'm good with that. I think that's a great plan, Deadfish.
And we've talked about the fact that there's going to be 20, 30 wide receivers that are going to go in the draft easy. So that's not a narrow margin. There's going to be a huge scatter shot. How many of those 20, 30 are actually going to pan out? All those different things. I think you do have a shot at it later on if you're, keyed in on something soon.
Definitely. All right, so here's a breakdown of the key players, their roles, strengths, challenges, and the overall state of the room based on the latest information, including their 2024 offensive PFF grade. So I just went through the room here real quick, okay? Key players in the wide receiver room. Jaden Reed, he had a PFF grade of 71.7. His role, primarily the slot receiver, though he can play outside when needed. his 2024 performance, Reed led the Packers in 2024 with 55 receptions for 857 yards and 6 touchdowns, establishing himself as a dynamic playmaker. He's known for his speed, shiftiness, and ability to make contested catches, which is still wild to think about that. You know, people see the drops and, oh, he can't catch the football, and then we watch him make catches in double and triple coverage. Strengths are his quickness, versatility used on jet sweeps and end arounds, and a knack for big plays. He broke the Packers' rookie reception record in 2023 with 64 catches, showing his potential early on. His challenges have been Reed struggled against man coverage in 2024, and his drop rate was notable at 12%, 9 drops on 75 targets per Pro Football Reference. His usage also seemed to decline in the second half of the season with shorter targets rather than the downfield plays he excelled at earlier. Now, what could that be? Could it be Jordan Love not being able to step into the throw quite like he wanted to? Could it be the fact that Jayden Reed tweaked his ankle on an end around and now LaFleur knew, hey, he's not going to be able to stretch the field but the way we need him to? And then lo and behold, we had a top 30 visit with a 4.29 40. You know what I mean? It just makes sense. So he goes on to say contract status entering his third year in 2025. He's still on the rookie deal through 2026. We got it right here. So his cap hit this year, $1.9 million. And then next year he's under contract at $2.2 million. That's his cap hit. So
and that's why you take those chances on receivers in the draft. I mean, it doesn't have to be, yeah, all right, we wanted to go for Christian to get him in 5th year. Fine. We didn't happen. We took Romeo. Everybody's on the 4-year. All right, let's see which one pans out. Which one are we going to pay? Because I mean, you have a growing offense right now. You've already paid some old linemen. You got Jordan paid, so you're at least kind of squared away there. You need to keep something in flux to keep those numbers down so that you can kind of get through it. Obviously, you're going to keep adding with the deals and all that, but I think that having a decent rotating crop of wide receivers is not going to hurt you in the long run. You could take Matthew Golden in the first, and 2 years down the road, Dontavian Wicks is getting $40 million. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's like it really could just be the luck of the draw. Whatever happens, you just got to take that best bet that you have for your team that's going to help them.
You got Romero Hill in the house. Appreciate you swinging through, buddy. Good to see you. Greg Rice says it would speak volumes about the confidence the front office has in the wide receiver room if we didn't get one until late in the draft or UDFA. Elijah Badger, maybe?
His receiving is tough.
Pat Bryant, maybe? I'm just saying. Like, it would really speak volumes, Greg. And again, what's the ultimate goal? To improve your team, right? Okay, you got to identify what do we need to improve. The running game was solid. The passing game, we were basically 4th in the league, essentially, right? Now, the biggest thing that was wrong with our offense was Jordan Love turning the ball over. If he didn't turn the ball over, I think they would have had – their numbers would have been so high, it would have been like, holy cow, this is like Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre type stuff. In terms of, especially with the cheapest wide receiver room in the entire league. So I think that comes into play a little bit there as well. And I could see that, Greg. I'd have no problem with that.
And thinking about how he kind of approaches drafts, like what did we need last year? You know, we needed some help on the offensive line. Obviously, it didn't pan out that Morgan played all those downs. But then what did he do in the second? All right, well, let's go get Bullard. Let's go get Edgerrin Coop because we needed help at safety. We needed help at backer. Where do we need help this year? Right. So I think that's where you kind of chase down. That's how we've narrowed it.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says our wide receiver room's putting in work in this offseason. Wicks is looking really good. The Wicks slander gets me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. We'll get to him here in a minute, Emilio. But, like, we forget how good he was his rookie year. And it's like all of a sudden this dude isn't allowed to have a sophomore slump. You know what I mean? Like, and again, do I think Wicks is going to be a Hall of Famer? No. Do I think he's going to be an All-Pro? Probably not. But I think he's got the potential that if he returns back to that rookie season form and maybe just takes a slight step forward, you can go, that's a solid number 2 receiver. Yep. And I'm telling you, it's kind of what it feels like in this wide receiver room is you got we said it last year, and I did get made fun of a little bit for it. I ain't going to lie. I feel like we have a room full of number 2s. I believe that. I believe Jayden Reed's a borderline number 1. When I say number 1, guys, I'm not talking about a Phil Tilton wide receiver. I'm talking about a guy who can be number 1 on the depth chart, right? Romeo Doubs, like you put him on any roster in the league, he's competing for that number 2 spot. I just about guarantee it. Christian Watson, when he's healthy, that you could probably contact all 31 other teams and go, hey, would you be interested in Christian Watson? They'd say, hell yes, if he's healthy. It's just the injury issue. Obviously, that's a big issue. So I have a lot of faith in Wicks. Now, does that mean you don't go out and try to improve your team if the board says, hey, best player available is this wide receiver? Absolutely not. You go get him, man. You got to get that. But again, fourth in passing, I just don't see it as a huge issue, me personally.
No, but you have to keep replenishing it. It's not, you're never not going to at some point have to take one. It's just everybody's wanting the first rounder. Is it going to happen? Who knows? What difference is it going to make if the fourth rounder, Romeo Doubs takes off and gets paid versus the first rounder that, didn't pan out. Now he's off the team. That's it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Coach Lynn says Kyle Williams, maybe. I'm going to check real quick, Coach. I feel like our board is a lot lower on Kyle than most. We've got him in the 158 spot. But his RAS, I'm showing a 0 on an RAS, which means it would be less than 7. I don't know if it was complete. I imagine it was. But the Senior Bowl, he balled out, though, and that's usually a pretty good sign. So that's something to kind of, hey, let's look into. He was 64th at his position in 2024. Consensus Big Board had him at 147. The PFF Big Board had him at 152 at the end of the college football season. Obviously, coming out of Washington State, maybe a little lesser known. I think he has climbed up boards since then, but you guys know how our board is. We want to base it strictly on how did people feel at the end of the college football season, and then we'll control how much we add bonuses with the off-season stuff. So Kyle Williams out of Washington State's in the 158 spot for us, Coach. So, yeah, a little later, that'd be about right. What pick would that be, Amelia? Would it be like fourth round?
I want to say, let me just pull up the banner real quick. It would be 159 is fifth round, 124 is fourth.
Got it. So somewhere around the fifth round. Yeah, Coach, you're spot on there, man. I'd be okay with that. That would be about where his value sits on our board. So good stuff there. All right, let's move along here. Next on the list is Christian Watson. All right, his PFF grade last year, 69.1. His role, outside receiver, deep threat, and the team's primary, quote, field stretcher. 2024 performance, Watson's season was cut short by a torn ACL, limiting his output. When healthy, he's the Packers' most physically gifted receiver at 6'4", 208 pounds, and elite speed at 4.32 40-yard dash. In 2023, he had 422 yards on 28 catches with 5 touchdowns, but injuries have been a constant issue. His strengths are exceptional athleticism, size, and speed make him a matchup nightmare when on the field. He's the only true deep threat in the group. All right, challenges. Durability is the big question mark. He missed significant time in each of his 3 seasons with his ACL recovery. Will likely sideline him for the first half of the 2025 season. Drops have also been an issue at times. His contract status, he's in his contract year. We've kind of talked about this, Emilio. There's a good chance that he's going to have basically from November through January to prove he's worthy of a new contract. Now, there's a little bit of precedent. The Packers seen enough of Rashawn Gary, on a short schedule after he came back from his ACL, and they said,
not afraid to pay him there. Yep.
So there's a little bit of that there, but do I think coming off an ACL, playing for just a month or two, is going to get top wide receiver money? Probably not, but there's a couple different ways you can look at it, right? You can let him play this out, let him test the market and try to get him back on a market deal, or you can offer him something as soon as you feel comfortable with the ACL being good that's maybe very team-friendly, and he'd look at it and go, if I tear an ACL again, I'm screwed. Maybe I should take this $20 million in guaranteed money that they're offering, right? So what do you think about Christian there? Obviously, I wanted to include him on the list because it's important to understand he's coming back in November most likely, and he's already been on the treadmill too, posting videos. But when he's healthy, man, he's dynamic. It's just we cannot – just like Jair, we can't deny the fact that he seems to be always banged up, man.
Right. And I think that's, one thing, obviously it's going to hurt him in the contract talk. I think it'll, help the Packers. If that's something that hangs up the number, I mean, I would be happy if Christian Watson was, get that man paid enough to keep him happy. Let's make it work for the Packers. But you're right. He's dynamic on the field. When we wanted to get him in the first round for a reason. Goody likes him. It's not that we don't want to keep that frame, that speed around. I think we just kind of need to work on, hey, you watch my back, I'll watch yours kind of thing. We need to get this team put together. Do you want to be a staple piece here in Green Bay? I love the way he fights. I love the way he works. He's a team player. He wants to be there. He's really, I mean, he's gotten 100 times better, well spoken in front of the media. I mean, everything about him, he just carries the G. So I wouldn't be opposed to making that man a little happy, even if it hurts our bank, and say, all right, let's take a chance on something. I mean, how often are we risk takers as a Packers organization? You know, it's not very often that we're, taking a shot in the dark there.
And dealing with the Romeo Doubs issue last year, whether you believe Romeo, as some reported, was upset with his role in the offense, or if you think it was something, mental health aspect, which there's been people talk about that too. Christian Watson was a leader through that situation. He was vocal. Like, yeah, I talked to Rome about it and this and that. And he was just one of these guys that anybody who thinks that he's I hate using this word when I talk football because it's such a serious word, but anybody who thinks that Romeo Doubs is a cancer on this team, I challenge you to go back and watch the tape last year and watch how his teammates reacted when he made a play after that suspension.
Yep.
They love that dude.
Yep.
He's the farthest thing from that. He is a different kind of guy. You can tell he's extremely, extremely uncomfortable talking to the media. There's, to me, I met a lot of people like that growing up, where it's like you could tell they had a rough upbringing and they don't quite know how to interact with groups of people. I'm like that. You'll see it at the draft, guys. I won't shut up on the podcast. If I meet up with you guys at the draft, I'll be the most quiet person in the group because I can't stand being around crowds. I'm an introvert by nature, big time. Many people don't know that, but when you're a business owner and you got to talk to customers and colleagues and all that, you better get over it quick or you're going to go hungry. That's just the way that goes. I relate to people like Rome, though, that's not that vocal, outspoken person. And man, it really pissed me off hearing some fans go, can he just not look happy? Can he look happy for once? Why do you care if he looks like he's happy? Right. What are we even doing here? He just scored a touchdown, and you're pissed off that he just handed the ball to the ref and didn't act like it mattered to him. Like, what are we talking about here?
Give him the old T.O. blacked out visor just so he doesn't have to see. I mean, if people didn't see, his face, we'd be set. And then they wouldn't have to worry. Rome scored a touchdown this game. Move on from it. I think that, it's just – it really is crazy. But you think about it, after they go into their team meetings, right, they do the quick team meeting, then they're off to their position groups. Someone's got to take control of that room. No, right. I mean, someone's got to sit in the chair and say, guys, like, we got to catch the ball. We got to do this. We got to block. We got to help out Josh. We got to help out Jordan. That's something that has to be done. And I think that Christian probably has taken that belt. So who's going to step up now moving into the season? Who's going to take the reins this year? Because, hey, man, it's 2025 is coming up. We got to go. Christian's not going to be here. Somebody's got to take that torch.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to talk about Romeo Doubs when we come back on the other side. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you over there for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.